like, yeah, no, it's aged well. And I still keep thinking of like the Konosuba episode, like the day it was put up, it was aged terribly. Where it's like, literally, like, just my feed is full of like, this is how you can seduce this character. And it's like, oh no, I'm just wrong.
This is wholesome. This is not wholesome.
I think I literally said,
oh god,
to the effect of this is wholesome, and it's so not. Oh.
What is up, Internet? And welcome to the Otaku Remakes Podcast. It's your boy Brando with the always ultimate, spectacular, sexual Christopher House.
Can we subtract the sexual?
Depending on who's listening. You know, maybe I'll bleep it.
Hi, Mom.
It's your boy.
It's your boy. Anyway.
Sexual House.
Oh my god. Can we please move to the topic of hand?
Yes.
Which I've actually forgotten.
You know what we're here for.
I forgot.
Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck. Okay, yeah. Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Oscar winner.
Oscar winner. Golden Globe winner. Winner of my heart.
Winner of everybody's hearts.
Yes.
Except for Disney.
Yeah, because Sony got to put it out in their name.
In their name.
With their brand. But today we're talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the 2018 hit film, now Academy Award-winning, Golden Globe-winning, and just generally beloved animated film. Possibly one of my favorite Spider-Man anythings. You and I, Chris, got the chance to rewatch it again, like, 2-3 nights ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, you and I had seen it. We were rewatching it. Everybody in the house was watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
And it was really fun to see Rob and Mezza's, reaction, because it was basically like being in the theater again, like just seeing everybody's very positive, fun emotion, and anything that kind of quiets down Rob after a few minutes. Granted, he was like, "It's the Prowler, it's the Prowler."
Yeah. It is great because so I was shown to this by Dan, who was on the Kingdom Hearts podcast.
Yes,
and he had seen it before, and I hadn't, and he was itching to see my reactions, and I feel like that's what this movie kind of is.
Yeah.
It's a great movie that you just want to see people's childish reactions.
It's a lot of fun. It's just a fun movie. Yeah.
And so that was basically what it was for us. Just seeing does this work for I don't want to say more casual audience, but an audience that isn't looking for does it work at a basic entertainment level?
Yeah. I think it works for the layman. It works for the longtime fans. I think when we were kind of prefacing for this podcast and we were just kind of pre-gaming, I mentioned that I think that this is something that's very reverent to the entirety of Spider legacy.
Yeah.
You know, the spirit and the morals of the character, but also the realist, the economy that goes around it, the merchandising, the memes,
the memes, yes. Brando.
Yes,
the memes.
Oh my god,
it's how we make our living these days.
I know, right? Oh my god,
we live and die by the memes.
We really got to do a JoJo meme-esque podcast conversation.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say we need to do a Metal Gear Solid 2 podcast.
That too. It was both of those things.
Yeah.
Both of those things.
Absolutely.
But back on topic, before we get carried away.
Before I get obsessed with JoJo again.
Yes. What was your knee-jerk reaction, fresh out of the theater, maybe into now? What is your temperature on this movie?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic when I saw this movie. Unlike a lot of people going into it, I saw the trailer a year before it came out.
Yeah. And
I was actually really impressed by it. Mm-hmm. By the trailer, at least. I thought there was a lot of funny moments, and I was cool, this will be a Deadpool-esque Spider-Man movie. And when I say Deadpool, I mean it'll be funny, and I'll laugh a lot during the film, and I won't think about it outside of that. And lo and behold, it was much more than that. The comedy works on every level. It's very punchy, it's very quippy. No shocker, it's the folks who wrote the Lego movie.
Yeah, the screenwriting duo, Phil Lord, Chris Miller.
So they never leave you with 2 minutes without laughter or something that.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, the script is also very heartfelt. It works as a kind of character piece for Miles Morales, which is very important for me. You're introducing this new character, and and throughout this film, exactly who he is, what his issues are, and within this movie how he overcomes those issues, and it makes the character very appealing to me. Yeah, because I didn't fall for him in My only other experience with Miles Morales is in the PS4 Spider-Man, and I didn't fall for the character in that movie.
Yeah.
Or sorry, that game.
Yeah.
Because like he's not the center focus, and he's just kind of like there.
Yeah.
And so like this movie really won him over for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I too saw the initial trailer, like however many months out that was, and then like when I saw it, I had a lot of excitement, but metered expectations.
Okay.
We both come from a different viewpoint when it comes to the character. I'm a longtime comic book fan. Love the character of Miles. Read a lot of the initial run with Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pichelli, and so I have an affinity for the character. And I was hoping that they would do it right, because when I heard they were finally doing a Miles movie, I was like, "Oh, who's the actor?" And they're like, "Animated." I'm like, "Whoa!" Like, because animated superhero films there's not. I think this is like the only one that I feature, like a feature film.
It's at least not held in high regard.
Yeah, it's almost like getting like a sideline, like a benchwarming.
If you know the good TV series animated stuff, mostly DC's stuff, like animated is like at least solid. In recent years with like the Killing Joke and stuff, not so much.
Yeah, they've done a lot, Warner Brothers.
But in terms of Marvel stuff, like animated features are generally considered like B tier, whatevers.
Outside of like for like a meta commentary on the two between Marvel and DC, I feel like a lot of people would say that Marvel is like destroying them in like the box office, on the small screen, like with the Netflix series, and like even the stuff that's like on Hulu, like Runaways. And the other Marvel shows that are floating around, Cloak and Dagger. Mm-hmm. I've heard all good things. And obviously DC has its struggles with the cinematic universe that we're trying to build. But outside of that, the animated features that Warner Brothers has been making, for DC, have been fantastic. The comics, I believe, are outpacing Marvel for like the last 4 or 5 years or so as well. Yeah, DC comics. Yeah, especially since the rebirth. Revamp of the DC universe. So there's a lot going on there. We don't need to get all into the complications of that, but so when I heard that Marvel wanted to do an animated film, a feature film at that, like even under the guise of Sony, like I was a little bit tenuous, but I was genuinely surprised in a lot of ways. One, with the first thing that you go into the movie and you notice has got to be like the visuals, like
they're very striking.
Yeah, this is an extremely striking visual story, musical story as well. I feel like musical in the sense of how much it plays into the overall film setting.
The soundtrack is very well integrated into the story.
Yes, I feel like this movie has like a strong visual and musical identity, and it plays into the like you were mentioning, like the sharp humor that Phil Lord and Chris Miller kind of wrote in for it. Like they were the guys who did the Lego movie, like we mentioned, and I think they've already got experience in capturing what is like the quintessential elements of a product or something. When it came to the Lego movie, they found all the ways to kind of like capture that feeling of imaginative, fun, iconic merchandise Lego. And then with Spider-Man, they found ways to really kind of, I feel like I remember watching an interview with them, and they kind of mentioned that they wanted the aesthetic to be something like bringing you into a comic book, walking in, and very much you can see that with like just the little sepia dots that kind of that play into the comic book reading experience, and then you have all the word bubbles that pop out, the speech bubbles, and just in general the style of the 3D animation, where it's kind of like I believe it was 2D animation lines integrated with the 3D models, which kind of has that like that malleability to kind of do a lot of different styles, because then you have a lot of different characters when they kind of get to the extra dimensional spider people they bring in. I feel like it accommodates all of their different styles, because you have like the black and white noir, spider noir, and then you have like the anime heroine, and like both of them are animated in very different ways, but there isn't any lack of continuity, it feels like. Absolutely.
And that deals with the 3D aspect of it, of the movie. Because with 2D animation, it is literally cell drawings that they're using. So like you can have things kind of look oddly different unless your shading is like perfect. Whereas with 3D, it's all running in an engine. Like so like you literally have models made under the same cloth. So everything kind of looks similar, but they use they just make the models as extendedly different as possible to make them at a base level different, but because they're still in the same engine work, it still is the same shading and everything like that. So they all look like they're in the same existence. They just look different. I was looking up what the production company actually was, and it was just Sony Pictures Imageworks.
Yeah.
They've worked on plenty of other films before this, and nothing like as outlandish. No, I shouldn't say outlandish, but nothing as like fantastical as this. And it really shows like a creative spark to replicate the comic image. And yeah, like it really, I think it's earned its place in like animation history.
Yeah, for sure.
At least in like, I wonder if this will push other studios to go farther, like how Pixar's first 3D movie, Toy Story, like really pushed the envelope and made people realize we need to catch up.
People are fascinated with the technical expertise of this film, and as I understand it, it took them a year to develop this specific style before Phil Lord, Chris Miller, and the directors Reynolds. There's 3 directors, and I can't remember all their names. But before they were all satisfied with just like 5 to 10 minutes of footage. So it took them an apt amount of time to really kind of carve out what they considered to be a unique and serviceable style for what they wanted to tell, and it definitely shows. I definitely appreciated the very unique elements of it. Like, not only mentioned like how like there's line work integrated with the 3D, but there's also an interesting element to not only the way it moves, like it is kind of like not choppy, but there are times where it has like a little it's jarring.
It's like because
it's not a consistent frame rate. But one thing that I think always was interesting was, and I saw this movie in 3D at the time, but it's not a necessity because there's some elements of the design, the visual design, that kind of play it without even having to be in a 3D theater. But like the way they kind of mess with the red and blue saturation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
like
especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like you're watching a 3D movie without 3D glasses on for a little bit. Yeah. That's because everything's blurry, and we'll get into why I think they do that a bit later. But it's at least it's very striking. It really grabs your attention.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely like, I won't say that I wasn't like taken aback when you immediately see it, but like it's a treat for the senses. Like it's a beautiful film to watch. Yeah. And like we said earlier, it just encompasses so much of the Spider legacy. Yeah. And I really appreciate it, like you said, like it's a Miles. Despite all that, it's a very focused story on Miles.
It's surprising how focused it is.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because there's so much going on. Like as far as like if you're gonna introduce like 5, 6 Spider people and then like have, I don't know, 5 or so villains to counter that, you can really get lost in the mix.
It would be impossible.
Exactly. Yeah. So the fact that they're able to write a concise, meaningful story about Miles as an origin story for him is definitely an achievement in my eyes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because, and this is where the writers get a lot of credit, or whoever conceived the story, which I think Miller did a lot of the conceptual stuff. Yeah. It really shows that, like, so the Spider-Verse plot is the set piece for this movie. It's what happens, and it's technically, but the focus is still Miles as a character. Yeah. And that's what kind of that's what the audience follows throughout this movie. And it's good because the Spider-Verse stuff is dumb. But in a good way.
It's a campy,
it's a campy story, and it shouldn't be thought of too hard.
Exactly, yeah.
So it isn't. So it's not that's like, we want to think of who Miles is as an anxious young teenager trying to learn his place in the world and what his gifts are that his dad keeps telling him he has. Yeah. What people are expecting of him and what he can deliver on.
Yeah, the Spider-Verse, what's it called? I should say, like, circumstances are just like a vehicle to get to like spectacular stakes. Yeah. But like it's really just a coming of age story for Miles.
Absolutely.
At the center of it all, and then just mini plot lines for a few other characters. Like mostly, I would say for Gwen and for Peter B. Parker.
Yeah, we'll call him Peter B. Yeah. That works for so many ways, but because you have Peter A and then Peter B. But yeah, and their side stories also parallel. Not parallel, but they go in tandem with Miles's fear. I think we talked about this off podcast.
We can get into it right now.
Yeah, and it's how this whole all the characters' motivations are structured around the idea of failure and the fear of failure. And like, so Miles, as I pointed out earlier, he's very anxious. He's very like, I would almost say self-conscious of himself. And like it shows even before he gets bitten by the spider, where he's he kind of doesn't feel like he fits in with the school that he's going to right now. Part of him says like they're not my people.
Yeah.
But also it's also I think that he worries that he's going to mess up in some way because it's not what he loves and it's not what he's passionate about.
Yeah.
A great moment is when he gives his teacher when his teacher tells him, you know, oh, you got a 0 out of 100, and he's like, oh man, I guess I just don't fit in. And it's like, no, you obviously do, because you couldn't have gotten a 0. It's a multiple choice test.
Yeah, him going to the school is kind of almost a mini parallel to getting the spider mantle. Like, you know, he kind of says it's by chance that he ended up there. It's a responsibility, but his father's like, this is an opportunity that you can't waste.
Yeah. It could have anybody else could have gotten in, but you did.
Exactly.
And you have this chance now.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a cute little narrative thing that I would say Mill and Lord did. Another thing going on forward that you're saying that kind of parallels with the rest of the spider people is how they kind of like, a lot of them are dealing with, or rather are shaped around loss, and how they kind of take that loss and move forward with it. And obviously Peter B is struggling heavily with his breakup, his divorce with his universe is Mary Jane. Gwen is suffering from the loss of her Peter, her best friend, you know, the inverse of the situation that you're canonically used to. And then there's with Miles, he isn't really at odds. It is a little bit, the inciting incident is obviously with their universe's Peter dying. Yeah. And then the vacuum of there being no Spider-Man kind of makes him believe a little bit. So I kind of feel like, one, you see a lot of these spider characters learning to move forward and get up after their losses, which is a huge thing where they always talk about like getting up. Yes. Like he always gets up. Spider-Man always gets up and goes back on the horse, and then it's kind of overhead or under the umbrella of the overall spider theme, where Stan Lee's like anybody could be the hero, sort of thing. So,
and it's important that these heroes have a issue that is relatable to the audience. Like nobody can relate to I shouldn't say nobody can, but like there's the power fantasy issue of like I have to defeat super bad guy. Yeah. But that's not what's like relatable on a human level. What's relatable is like the fear of failure, or the loss, and the struggle with loss. And like those are kind of what make these characters like personal for a lot of people. Yeah. And like Miles, I think would be very relatable to like a high school age audience. Yeah. I mean, he was still relatable to me and you. Yeah, and like I think they convey it very well throughout the movie. Actually, I kind of want to go in more detail about how the whole movie's theme and atmosphere kind of work. Yeah. And it's like this movie's very fast paced, especially up until the Prowler fight. I should say the fight at Aunt May's house. Yes. The movie is almost frantic, but not in a way that makes the audience lost. Yeah. Just like we're like things are just happening very quickly, and that kind of helps give you this unsettled, not in a horror way, but like in a basic way of like how Miles must feel during his like they show in the classes where he's going back and forth and back and forth, and there's just so much happening in such a little amount of time. And that happens in the narrative of Spider-Verse, where it's like all this shit is happening really fast, and I just like it gives you anxiety. Like there's no time to think, you just need to like do. And you see Peter B reacting very calmly to all this because he's like so used to it at this point. And even Gwen more or less like reacts very calmly to all this, but Miles, the character we're following, is not, and it takes more and more of a toll on him as the story progresses until it reaches the climax of every spider person. I guess that's what we'll call them, spider persons,
spider people,
all the spider men, and ma'am, like asking Miles, are you ready for this? Are you ready for the final showdown? And him just kind of chickening out. Yeah. Reasonably so, though, because it's like, it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, there's definitely, I feel like it's paced well to match with Miles' emotional center at any given time. Yeah. Like, you know, like, especially in the beginning when he gets the powers and the thought bubbles, the speech bubbles start popping up more and more. And like, there's a lot of like pan in on him, and a lot of like and then especially with, like you mentioned, like when he's frantic and afraid, like he kind of just gets away from it. One thing you were mentioning about like how it's hard to identify typically with superheroes, I think that kind of like that jostled my brain, because when I think about the typical superhero film these days, the reason why Marvel has the success that they do is because the rule of thumb typically between DC and Marvel, and not to get into like the political, but like just observationally, you look at the DC hero line, and like they have characters that are like Titan-esque gods, like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. These people that are like emblematic of ideals that are larger than you. They're what you strive to be like. And then you have Marvel characters, which are mostly accidents of science, Frankensteins, and much more humanistic, with like Tony dealing with his PTSD, or the Hulk is like as a man who deals with like deep internal rage. That's probably why Thor had such a hard time landing with audiences for a time being, because he was this kind of like god-esque character that was kind of like a little bit
infallible.
Flat. Exactly, infallible, a little bit flat, and that's probably why Ragnarok hit so well with people, because it gave him a lot more flaws, made him a lot more interesting. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of humor in that film. But
I think it's more the humor than anything else.
And I feel like the champion of the humanistic and relatable hero will always be Peter Parker or Spider-Man. Miles or Peter, which is, I mean, that's why I love the game so much. Like the Spider-Man game, like you get to see. One, it's like just a beautiful homage to the totality of Spider-Man, but like you really get the spirit of like that guy who's relatable, who's balancing a social and work life with the responsibilities thrust on him, and you see that in this film a lot, with Miles transitioning into that balance.
But in a different way.
Very much.
The problems and the way Peter deals with those problems are much different from Miles.
Exactly,
which is nice. Both are charming characters, but in their own aspects.
Exactly, yeah.
Miles is not just Black Peter.
Yeah, I know.
Which is so nice.
Exactly, yeah. Like they're very much different characters. Peter is thrust into it much faster with Uncle Ben. Like the message is much more direct. Like because Uncle Ben was a paragon of that responsibility mantra, and after he died, I really felt like I needed to live up to it. Miles, he never feels the initial impetus. He's scared, and he has the natural teenage reaction where it's like he just wants to be normal still. Like he just wants to fit in and not stand out. But it just can't go that way with the...
It's funny, I would almost think of it in a different way, where it's like Miles has that push of like responsibility before he's a Spider-Man, because at least in this movie, because of where he sits with his dad when he's just going to school.
Yeah, I was going to get into that actually.
So he already has that impetus, but the issue he's dealing with is not what he does with this power, but like, how do I know if I'm actually up to this? Yeah. And that's what this all leads up to in this movie.
Miles' path in life is kind of being like guided by the two father figures in his life. Yeah. His father, Officer Jefferson, and then his uncle Aaron, and then like they both have opposing they're
morals.
They have diametric ideologies on how they want to handle it. They have his father, who's kind of like a more old school, rigid morality. Yeah. Maybe too rigid because he doesn't see he doesn't understand the creative side to Miles and like what he could possibly go with that.
Along with like his like lack of respect for individuality, I would say. Almost.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, because Officer Jefferson, at least in this movie, hates Spider-Man.
Yes, he's a very rigid soul. And then you have his uncle Aaron, who's very free-spirited, very creative, likes Miles to find his own path, his own way, but seeing as he's like an assassin for a fucking crime lord.
Yeah, spoiler alert. He's the I guess it's not a spoiler. Nah, it was a surprise to me. I didn't know he was the Prowler.
Yeah. But yeah, seeing as that's his livelihood, he could possibly use a little bit more rigid morality probably in some parts of his life. Yeah. So they kind of balance each other out as to what they mean to Miles and how they push him and project his future, and that's an interesting sub-narrative in the movie that kind of shapes Miles' character, because that's something that they do in the comics, but this is something that they do very concisely and meaningfully in the film. So it's just beautiful. Yeah. Like all the character moments between all three of those characters, like when spoiler, when Uncle Aaron dies,
Yeah.
That's like a very touching moment because you see how much he means to him. And then even after that, when Jefferson comes to console him about it and open up about his own insecurities and what he believes his failings as a father are, to Miles, and all that stuff is just like extremely organic, and it just hits very well.
Yeah. And like, it's also the bridge between those two. So like when Uncle Aaron dies, he tells Miles, like, you're the best of us. You just need to keep on going.
Yeah.
Like, and I know it's what he means when he said keep on going is like, get out of here. Mm-hmm. But it's metaphorical as well. It's like, you just need to do it. You just need to go for it. And then that's capped off with his father, Officer Jefferson, telling him that it's okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you need to do.
Exactly.
I'm there for you.
That he sees the spark and he's like, whatever you do, you'll be great at it.
Yeah. And in between those, because in between those is the question of, well, how do I know? How do I know what I want to do and if I'll be good at it? Mm-hmm. And that's capped off with Peter B, because he asked Peter B, like, how will I know when I'm ready? And Peter B gives the best line in the movie.
Yeah.
Is, you don't. It's just a leap of faith.
Yes.
I tear up at that line every time.
Because it's so honest, and it's the advice that he's looking for, honestly, as well. Because that's what Miles hits him with at the end.
Yeah.
You know, it's the line for all of them. Like,
and even the audience as well.
Yeah.
Because I think those are the questions that resonate with a younger audience as well, who are maybe questioning what their purpose in life is.
Exactly.
And it's like, dude, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You just need to do something. You need to try. Mm-hmm. And like,
it's just exactly, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, there's so many sweet universal morals and like messages and themes that just kind of get popped out like that, and that's why this movie, it all connects so well together, because everything kind of loops back into it itself.
Yeah. We're silent right now because we're both just like, this movie's so good.
I love it. Yeah.
If you have not seen this movie yet, please go see it.
Also, if you don't want meaningful messages, go for the memes.
Oh my god.
Go for the references to Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 2, the emo dance,
Spider-Man 2069 or whatever.
The silly things in the background. There's a million things. I think that at one point, in the clouds, when the word sunflower reads out, which is the name of the song at the beginning of the film.
Oh my god.
In the background, I was looking up a bunch of stuff before we got on this. In Times Square, in Miles' alternate universe, there is an ad for a Yugo.
Yeah,
the car, which failed in the 90s here.
I mean, there's the Seth Rogen movie, On Your High Horse or something, which is a parody of another Seth Rogen movie.
There's a sequel. There's a movie, I think, called College. God, what is it?
There's one called Baby Shower.
Clone College. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Clone College.
Clone College.
Because apparently, I think that Miller and Lord did a show called Clone High.
Okay. Right, they did.
And in this universe, it's getting a film called Clone College.
And in this universe, instead of bridal shower, it's baby shower, which is advertised in Times Square.
Yes.
So
there's a lot of little fun atmospheric stuff. You know, like a lot of fun, just wink nod stuff for those people who like to play the I Spy.
Yeah.
But also, it's part of the DNA of Spider-Man now, like the reaction videos, like this, especially the post-credit scene.
Oh my god, I'm surprised. So you didn't see it when
I didn't see it in time when it happened. I just left.
Yeah.
Which is not normal for me when it comes to just superhero films these days, because of like they've trained us so well.
Yeah. But you missed out on the best one, which is Spider-Man. What is it? Spider-Man 2069?
2099. Yeah,
2099.
Yeah.
Sorry. Got 69 on the brain. Maybe I am very sexual. I don't know. But yeah, that post-credit scene, I'm not even going to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it. Yeah. But it's amazing.
It is just, it's a hoot. It's fucking funny.
Oh, don't even worry. It's such a good point.
If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out.
And as well as, so when they get into Doc Ock's lab, you notice the way the camera's pointed at Spider-Man when he's sitting behind her desk. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same pose as the animated one of Spider-Man sitting behind the desk going, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here. Like, they know, and it's never like interrupting the pace of the film or the emotional points. Although there is one when MJ's giving the eulogy, and Miles is like, "Oh, I think she's talking about me," and then somebody interrupts and gives it like a very lowbrow joke of like, "I don't think she's actually talking about you," and it's like, okay, guys, that one you should have just let.
It's okay. I mean, for me, I think that they just want to offer levity because it is still like, I think a family film.
True.
They don't ever want it to get too too deep into the grief.
Yeah.
A little bit, something like
especially that early.
Exactly, and there was a lot of emotional moment, like that whole scene's emotional.
Yes.
Then in the eulogy is emotional because again, it's just echoing the Stan Lee quote again. Because after Stan Lee echoes that quote right after the whole where like we are all Spider-Man, anybody can wear the mask, and then like that's what Miles says at the end.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
So yeah, they did. I guess they did want a little levity, but yeah, no.
But you were mentioning Doc Ock and
Liz.
Yeah. Liz,
as Aunt May calls her,
Liz Octavius, or Liv. I don't remember what it is.
Liv, yeah.
But the villain designs and the villains in this film,
are they the Miles Morales versions of them, or are these completely original?
Well, the Green Goblin is like that in the Ultimate. So when we say the Miles Morales version, we'll give the TLDR explanation to that. So Miles comes from what was the Ultimate Universe.
Okay.
So there was an Ultimate line of an alternative line that started in the early 2000s of Marvel Comics. And that's where Miles was born. And in that universe, Peter Parker does die. And he takes up the mantle afterwards. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Since then, Ultimate and what is the canonical Marvel Universe, which is called...
Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes,
right?
yes. That's called 616. They've been put together. Mostly 616 is what has remained. And some of the Ultimate... Whatever's been good in the Ultimate Universe. Basically,
whatever we wanted to keep.
A.K.A. Miles and a few others. Yeah. Were carried over, but so that's where the comics are right now. But no, not a lot of the designs carried over. Only one that was really Ultimate inspired, I would say, was the Green Goblin in his very demon-esque form.
Okay.
I don't remember any version of a Liv Octavius. Like this Doc Ock is not. I think it was completely. It caught me off guard completely. I was like, what the fuck? So I didn't see her in the trailers either. Also, this design for the Kingpin though is very interesting.
It's very cartoonish, and I do like how cartoonish it is.
Yes,
because it makes him more than just like because this is not the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
no,
where things have to be realistic.
No,
this is very much like we want characters to be a certain way to express a certain feel, and Kingpin's not given a lot of time in this movie, even though he's our main antagonist, but they get away with it by giving like a little bit of backstory that kind of like explains his motivations, which is also around failure. But they also just show who he is by just like giving him this massive brick like size, which is both comical as well as just saying like this dude is tough. He is not an average guy. He is a massive dude.
In conception, his design probably seemed like really ridiculous, but in practice it works. And like you were saying, like the villains normally in a film, especially with like traditional superhero film fare these days, you want the villain to be the strong counterpoint. Like you want them to really define a decent portion of the film's emotional like center. And Kingpin is not that. They've definitely found ways to keep it very centered on Miles' personal journey and the personal journey that a lot of the Spider people need to take to go on their path to moving forward. Kingpin is just there, and he is a decent villain, and he's written well enough. But I think he's very just serviceable. He gave him a marginal reason for doing what he's doing. You know, like the empathy about his family, but it's not really justifiable, obviously.
Oh no, but I don't think for a film as character focused as this one is, I don't think you need your villain to be redeemable.
Yeah, you don't need it to be morally ambiguous. It just needs to be.
It just needs to happen.
Yeah.
But like I think it's fine. It's serviceable, and like I don't know. It's not something even worth talking too much about. But like, yeah, no, he just works. That's what it is. He just works.
Yeah, and the rest of the villains do too. There's not too many others. There's the Scorpion,
the Mecha Scorpion.
Yeah, Cyborg Scorpion, which is again I haven't seen a design like that before. It looked pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of just given very easy face value, so that you don't have to you're never really meant to dive too deep into them. Yeah. There's Tombstone, who's
I was about to say Tombstone's there.
Yeah, he's just
He's just a dude with guns.
Great dude number 4. Yeah. So.
And but Prowler, I called Kingpin our main antagonist. He's not really. He's just our main villain.
Yeah, Prowler.
Because an antagonist is the opposite of the hero, whereas a villain is just the opposing force. Like our antagonist is our actual contrarian to the hero.
And you say that would be Prowler.
I feel like Miles' biggest problem is his own personal issues. Yeah. So there is no main antagonist.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to differentiate that to show that I'm smart. But,
I mean, you made the correct point.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if you were leading.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you knew what you were talking about.
You son of a bitch. So Kingpin, yeah, definitely decent villain.
But yeah, 2018 was a pretty interesting year for Spider-Man because not only do they have this fantastic video game, which I feel like embodies all the wonderful traits of Spider-Man, then you have this amazing film also doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Stanley die.
Oh God.
Oh man, but yeah, it's definitely a struggle of a year, bittersweet to say.
It was a bittersweet cap of the year, but I mean, at the same time, like it's great that he got into this one. He got into both. He got into the game. I think the game's my favorite Stan Lee cameo ever.
I think this one in the film
really
hits much. It's
both are great.
This one hits a lot harder for me. The Stan Lee cameo in the game in the diner is very cute and very fun, and very very Stan.
Yeah,
like it's very cheeky.
Yeah.
The one in the game, since it hits during a character's like eulogy and funeral.
That's true.
It's like I told you.
I didn't think about
it's
that.
it's triple death in that scene because you have Peter dying.
Yes.
You have Stan Lee in there, and the song is being played as an extension song after who's a rapper who's passed away.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck?
That's a lot of coincidences.
It's thick with death.
Film's fucking haunted, folks.
Yeah.
Never mind. Don't go see this movie.
Yes. But no, go see it. It's worth the curse.
Yeah.
But what it kind of means going forward. I mean, I'm looking forward. I'm excited because I mean, as a longtime fan of all Spider things.
He's your favorite superhero, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just the relatability just means so much to me. Like I said earlier, and I was kind of giving you a little bit of a window into like my own idea of what I enjoy about superheroes because you want someone who you can. I think there's two sides of the appeal of superheroes. One, like I mentioned earlier, the ideals to strive towards, but I think it's important to inspire people to make it believable that they could do it. Mm-hmm. You know, like not just being like this. Like Superman is an impossible ideal. Someone who is so incredibly infallible and heroic and strong and always knows the right thing. And you want to be like that, but you never will, ever. And part of that is a little bit of it disillusions you a little bit. There's never any time where I'm reading something for most of the Spider-Man comics that I've read, most of the Spider-Man, that it's not hard for you to put yourself in his own shoes, and then you can project yourself into that, like that you could be that person that could overcome these odds and handle that type of pressure.
Yeah. So
that's why I like Spider-Man so much, and this film is definitely the best Spider-Man film to date. I don't think anything will top it for the foreseeable future, even if they do. Hopefully, fingers crossed, spiders crossed, thwip, they make a sequel, hopefully.
I've heard they're gonna do a television series, apparently.
That'd be cool, but
production value is gonna go to shit.
I would love a sequel, please. Jeez.
Yeah, no, I could see it happening. So I was worried about this film when it came out, because it did not great on its initial weekend. Mm-hmm. It did fine, made its money, but like didn't do fantastic, and like it's actually gotten a cult following afterwards, and has made over over 320 million.
I kind of agree. I don't have
because I think it mirrored both internationally and domestically.
Oh, cool.
Both got 160 million.
Gotcha.
Or both got 80, and then that ends up 160. Whatever. Point being, that's actually very rare these days for domestic to do as well as international. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good sign for people's desire to see this movie outside of just the superficial aspects of it.
Yeah.
Outside of it just being a Spider-Man movie.
I think the word of mouth really helped give it a strong second push.
Yeah.
Like people were like, oh, it's just another Spider-Man movie on top of it being animated, which kind of has a stigma still in Hollywood.
Absolutely. We were just talking about somebody who had a stigma about it still.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, like, if enough people tell you, like Rob, like when we were coming into the house and we watched it on our second release, here with the digital release, it's like he was excited because of so many people telling him this film is worth it. Rob has offered to lend the film to other friends, and there has been an outpour of interest.
Absolutely.
And that's mostly because of within our friend group, there's just been enough passing around that this film is more than meets the eye, that it's denser than your average animated film, like that's for a family film. that draws people in.
Absolutely. So do you think this has, like, as a final question, do you think this has rejuvenated Spider-Man in the cultural perspective? Because right now, up until this movie came out, I think Spider-Man had became a meme, and only a meme. People had lost, like, the human message of Spider-Man.
It's hard for me to say because, again, I'm so entrenched in the culture and in the character that sometimes I feel like I have it's more than a bias.
Yeah.
But looking at it as objectively as I can, it's not rejuvenated as in it hasn't like brought it back from the brink or anything like that. I think Spider-Man's gone through like a renaissance over the last like 5 years. Again, not only with Homecoming coming out, with the in 2017 I believe that was, with Tom Holland reprising the role now for the MCU and reinteresting everybody after Civil War, and then when you have the game, which I feel like is a very strong cultural zeitgeist thing that like people are starting to get interested in, and then you have this film, which is now like critically and audience acclaimed. There's a lot of gas, but the thing is, Spider-Man is just this huge community, and like he's almost an entity. He is an entity outside of Marvel itself.
Yeah,
like just like Batman and Superman have like this
they are
place.
Icons.
Yes, they have place in Americana culture.
Yes.
Spider-Man also has that universal appeal, and always has for like the longest time. And I feel like it never waned to the point where I could say that, oh yeah, this brought him back. Like, this is pouring gasoline on the fire right now. Like I would say that it's definitely pulling it into the future for sure. So there's definitely elements of rejuvenating, but Spider-Man is like an empire unto itself.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. Well, hey, I guess that means we'll be seeing more Spider-Man come in the future.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see a remake of the Italian Spider-Man.
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. Him fighting Captain America.
Yes.
And on the roadside.
And just hearing that guy go, Spider-Man.
I think it was by gypsies. I know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Like just random Mediterranean gypsies making that film.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
It's the best Spider-Man media.
Besides the Japanese Spider-Man.
Which also, I think, goes, Spider-Man. There's Japanese gypsies. I don't know. But, well, I hope you guys enjoy this podcast.
Yep. That's where we're going to end. So, if you also enjoy Japanese Gypsy Spider-Man, we hope that you enjoyed this podcast. Let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, excuse me. If you guys enjoyed it, if you saw it, if you guys are excited for more, if you think it's overrated, whatever your ideas are, please shout them down below. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Like and comment. Well, I already said like, but subscribe.
Hit that bell.
Hit the bell. Please.
Ding, ding, ding.
We'd appreciate it if you guys had a good time, and we'll definitely have more content coming out shortly. And as always, have a good day, have a good life. We'll see you next time.